Well, I'm pleased to welcome back to the show one of Canada's most expert voices in national defence. He has held key positions in the Canadian Forces throughout his distinguished career, spanning 3 decades with the Navy and within the Canadian Forces in general as Vice Chief of Defence Staff. Thank you so much for joining me, Vice Admiral Norman, once more. You've had such a distinguished and wonderful career. How has your experience as a leader within the Canadian Forces, how has that been? And can you share with us some of your experience?
Well, I mean, it's an organization that is extremely dynamic. And you go through phases when you enroll in the armed forces, and then if you choose to stay, not everything is the same. If you don't like the job you have, then chances are you're going to change in 1 to 2 years, because that's what we require you to do. So it's never a static thing. You don't often have time to get bored, and you like any career or any pursuit over the long term, you learn, you evolve, you change, and you grow. And I am not the person I was at 17 when I joined the armed forces. And there were several points in my career where things either changed around me, circumstances changed, or I had to evolve because of what was happening. And it's that's part of the nature of a career in the military. It is extremely dynamic and always interesting.
And I think it's not every day that we get to speak with someone of your expertise and experience with the Canadian Forces. And I think it's important to explain to our viewers sort of, if maybe they have a child who's considering enlisting, or maybe someone's seeking a second career, what can they expect when they join the armed forces? How different of a career would that be for them?
Well, I mean, it's going to be, everybody's going to have a different experience. And it depends on what you're coming from, what your perceptions are when you join. In my case, I was third generation military, so I at least understood some of the lingo and some of the culture. Others would come in with absolutely no exposure, or we see this a lot, potentially negative exposure. A lot of new Canadians are coming from countries where the military is not a particularly wholesome part of their society. And they may have had very negative experiences, either personally or through their family. So, that journey is a very personal one. What would they find? They're going to find that they're joining an organization which, as it's described, is quite rigid in some respects. It demands a degree of conformity and discipline, but it's also an extremely dynamic organization. It's also a team-based organization, and they will quickly develop a sense of camaraderie and a sense of obligation to those people around them, beyond just thinking about themselves. I think those would be some of the early observations that people would probably make.
And, in the minute we have left before commercial, are there things that we can improve upon in the military? What do we do well? What do we do, say, not so well?
Well, I think, that the Canadian Armed Forces, like a lot of other modern Western armed forces, is trying to evolve its culture. There are unquestionably some issues in the Canadian Forces that the leadership are trying to deal with respect to treating their teammates with dignity and respect. And it is an issue. And it's been recognized as one. And, one of the toughest things to change are dimensions of culture that have been allowed to creep in and dig in over time.